Off to Pasadena, the game you will be covering in person. I'm so jealous. Ohio State and Oregon, they've played once in Eugene. Oregon won by 1 point. As you would expect for teams that played a 1 point game in one of their on-campus stadiums, you move it to a neutral site. The home team advantage gets pulled away. Ohio State is a 2.5 point favorite. That's kind of how the math would work out on that. How much do we take from the first game, Ari?
A lot, I think. I think that Oregon proved that they are able to compete with and are equipped from an athletic standpoint from top to bottom to exist in a blow-for-blow game with a team like Ohio State, who I think played their second best game of the year that day. Like Ohio State, during the last 10 years when they lose, a lot of times when they lose, they didn't play well. And only a few times have they played great and lost. And I think that was one of them. Like, I thought they played well, right?
Yes, and so that's my thing about this game is when I was watching the Tennessee game with you when we were up in Columbus last weekend, I was thinking, oh, when's the last time they played like this? Well, it was the Oregon game. Like they played like that against Oregon, yet they still lost.
Right. So from when you say, do you take, like, I don't know that I take the result, like who won, who won the game. If you go look at the box score, it was an identical game. Both teams put up all the same yards, time of possession, first downs, points, even like it was all similar.
And it ended with a penalty call that usually, like the offensive pass interference call on Jeremiah Smith was correct. It's just not one they normally will make. Like,
yeah.
And half the time they just let that lie. The other thing is you had the clock situation where Dan Lanning, now they've adjusted this rule, so he can't bend space and time again. But Dan Lanning stole seconds off the clock with that 12-man thing, which was brilliant. And then you also had Will Howard not manage the clock properly at the end of the game. So that's the difference. Like, otherwise, Ohio State's kicking a field goal to win. And that's not a big difference. These teams are very even.
They played an identical game, and who won and lost is important for like resume and stuff. But like as it pertains to analyzing this game, I think it's irrelevant because it was so similar. Now, I don't know how much you think Oregon's home field advantage helped, or the fact that Ohio State had to fly across the country, all that stuff, whatever. Again, irrelevant. The question here is the Ohio State team that showed up against Tennessee who they are for the rest of the playoffs? And if it is, can Oregon beat them twice? Like that to me is like where I'm at. So, in my preseason bracket, I had Oregon winning this game. And then we went to Columbus and saw what Ohio State did to Tennessee. And I thought that was a really dangerous scenario. And I think that the illustration of your column that you wrote, which was the number one seed can't get screwed, is like in the point spread here. Like they have the toughest second round matchup of anybody, and they're the one seed.
They're the underdog as the one seed.
And like we said it all year, like the Big Ten championship game, you should be incentivized to lose. And like, look at that. Look at the difference between them and Penn State. So, I feel for Oregon in that sense, but like, I don't know what it is about Michigan, but Ohio State has a problem with them. Ohio State against everybody else is really, really good. And they were really, really good against Oregon. I just have a hard time seeing Oregon doing it again. So I'm going to switch
I don't see any mental blocks here.
No, if they revert back to what they were, like Ohio State has, if you went down the list, they have more good players and they're playing well. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, I think Ohio State's going to win, but I don't know.
Is that okay? But that's what we want. Okay, this is what we want in this round of the playoff, and the next ones, by the way. Like, that's what we're hoping for. Like, we want, I don't know, because they're both really good. This is what we're hoping for, and this is what we hope all of the games in the next round will be. The two semifinals and the final will be like this. 3 bowl games today. We got a whole day on Friday. We got a whole day on Saturday. This is going to be tremendous. And our friends at Prize Picks have begun populating the board you're not playing Prize Picks already, what are you doing? Best daily fantasy game in America. Download the app, use the code Staples, play $5, get $50 instantly. And right now, there are all kinds of squares. For instance, the Pinstripe Bowl, Ari. How long have we talked about, will Nebraska make a bowl game? What's going to happen if Nebraska finally breaks through and makes a bowl game? They made a bowl game. Dylan Raiola, 198.5 passing yards, more or less, against Grayson James and the Boston College Eagles. Grayson James, remember, is the one who replaced Thomas Castellanos at the end of the season. Bill O'Brien's team has won 3 of 4 coming into this game. And then Nebraska, of course, coming off a very tough loss to Iowa, which seems like a million years ago. You got those squares, Michael Hawkins Jr., Blake Horvath on Prize Picks. There's also multiple other squares for all the games today, all the games tomorrow. The Saturday game should be getting populated here in the next few hours. Download Prize Picks, play $5, get $50 instantly. Use the code Staples.
Like Ducks forever is like they have more good players. Great analysis. Well, what else analysis? Like, why is that bad analysis?
Well, I don't know that they do. That's the other thing.
That's the question. But like,
I'm not sure they do have more good players than Oregon. I think this is pretty close from a talent standpoint.
Well, the fact that it's close is the illustration of why Dan Lanning is the best young coach in the entire sport.
Yeah.
Like when you think about the amount of investment that Ohio State has had in assembling their roster this year and putting together what they have out on the field there, and then you have a team where you're pushing back on the notion that Ohio State has more good players. That is masterclass, to borrow our sponsor, in building a roster.
Can we go? Let's go group by group. So receivers, I think we're going to take Ohio State's, even though Oregon's are very good. But I'm going to take Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka over anybody. Quarterback, I'm taking Dylan Gabriel.
Yep.
So that's Oregon.
Offensive line,
Oregon. I'm taking Oregon. Running backs, I'm taking Ohio State.
Yep. So it's 2-2.
Defensive line, now at the beginning of the year, I would have said Ohio State, but I think I'd take Oregon right now.
Ohio State had their best defensive line performance in like the last 4 years against Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have all 5 players they rotate in there are going to be playing in the NFL for a long time. I don't know.
But Oregon's are all pros too.
Yeah.
Secondary, I'm taking Ohio State.
Yeah.
Linebackers is kind of a wash. Like, this is going to be an incredible game.
And awesome. Also, too, Ohio State's receiver advantage is like absolutely unbelievably like stark against everyone else. Like Oregon's the only team where it's like, okay, you could take Ohio State's receivers.
Yeah, I'll take Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson against almost everybody else too.
Like,
exactly.
They've got great receivers too. So I don't know. I don't know, man. It's going to be I think this is going to be the game. Like, I think there's some people who will say, and Ralph Russo even said this, I'm going to put him on blast, that this is the de facto national title game. I don't know if I'm there yet because there's so many big time teams still left. That is this is what the sport's about, and I can't wait to go.
Okay. This is not the de facto national title game. One of the winning team may win the national title, but not because they won this game. Like, they're not going to blow through, because remember, the team that wins this is probably going to have to play Texas next. And then you're going to have to play Georgia, Notre Dame, Penn State, somebody like that in the final. Like, you're not blowing through those two teams. Or Boise. Yeah, exactly. So you're not blowing through that.
Yeah.
But the national champion may come out of this game for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, do you have a pick here? Like, mine is Ohio State, but I am
picking the Ducks. I think we watched Dan Lanning ascend here. And the first big win for him, because remember, he had those 3 Washington games, one in 2022 and 2 of them in 2023, where he couldn't get over the hump. And they were right there for a couple of them. The Pac-12 championship game, I think Washington sort of enforced this will at the end. But we're like, okay, when's Dan Lanning going to win one of these? The one against Ohio State was the one of those. And then we thought they were going to win the Big Ten championship game. The Penn State team that showed up in the Big Ten championship game was awesome. And they still won. And they still, like, it wasn't a case of they were in danger of losing. Like, Penn State kept getting it to 8, and then Oregon kept extending the lead. So I think Dan Lanning is the next Kirby Smart or Nick Saban or whoever, or we keep, or Dabo. Like, who's the next one of those? Dan Lanning's the next one. I think we watch him ascend here.
Yeah. And also, I think he's already ascended. They could lose this game, and I would be more than happy saying that he's the number one coach outside of Kirby Smart in the entire country. Like, I don't know that this is going to change my mind on him, and what he's done from a talent accumulation standpoint is going to have Oregon in this position over and over and over again. And that's all that you really want. Now, you want him to win, obviously, but your coach has that team in a very good position, and them beating Ohio State would be the least surprising thing on the face of the earth. So, I'm excited. Andy, you were a little bit worried coming into the show that we weren't going to be able to make
River
it
wants
to
to
an
know if I
hour,
want the money line or the 2.5. Give me the money line.
Andy's feeling froggy today. So, what did you think he was going to pick? But we made it to the end here, an hour, because JD's going on, right? Like you were afraid that we didn't have enough to talk about. And pretty soon you're going to find out that should never be a fear of yours ever again. Okay.
Okay. So you're taking the Buckeyes. Ryan Day returns the conquering hero, and then he's going to go to another bowl game and do it all over again. Love it.
They're just playing too well right now to pick against them, in my opinion. That was too impressive.
I cannot wait.
Unless you want to get into a 20-minute discussion about whether Tennessee should have been in the playoff at all. We could talk about that if you want.
Let's say that for the offseason.
I'm kidding.